everybody. This is Captain Sarah Lawrence. I am with Chesapeake Boating Academy and TOPA-US Kent Narrows and Naps Narrows up here on the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. Here today with the National Safe Boating Council for their Boat on Course program. So we are doing free monthly sessions. And right now we're going to be breaking down Navigation Rule 12. I am an NSBC instructor trainer, and I'm really excited to be here. So if you have any questions after this, please reach out and we're happy to help you. All right. Starting with Navigation Rule 12, this really has to do with steering and sailing vessels. So when two sailboats are meeting each other, which one of those is the stand-on vessel and which one of those is the give-way vessel? So who's going to have the right of way when two sailboats are either on the same tack or coming in on different tacks towards each other? Before we get started here, I really want to show you guys a couple of the words we're going to be seeing and the language used in this rule. So looking at a sailboat, right? And this is a sailboat with its sails up, not under power. If it's under power, it is a power-driven vessel. The side that the side of the boat that the wind hits is called the windward side of the boat. All right, so this is the windward side here. And the side away, the farther side away from where the wind is called the leeward side. It's spelled leeward, but it is pronounced leeward. All right, so we've got our windward side and leeward side. Then they get into it a little bit more. We've got a port side of a vessel and a starboard side of a vessel. So when you've got the wind coming over the port side of the boat, this vessel is going to be on port tack, okay? Port tack vessels are generally the give way vessels. If we have the wind coming over the other side of the boat, okay? We actually got some little sailboats here that we can use. If we've got something like this, with the wind coming over the starboard side of the vessel, now we have a starboard tack vessel. So we can see here we've got two different boats. One is on a starboard tack because the wind's coming over the starboard side. One over here is on a port tack because the wind is coming over the port side. Okay? All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you so that you're able to see this presentation and get some good visuals. All right, let's go back to the beginning here. All right, Navigation Rule 12, steering and sailing. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this and what this really means. Here is the whole rule put together. What I'd like to do is we're going to break this rule into different sections so that we can really understand the rule and each part of it. All right, so starboard tack has the right of way. That means that there's a stand-on vessel. So when we have two different boats, okay, sailing towards each other, and one of those vessels is on port tack and the other is on starboard tack, it is the vessel who is on port tack. It is their job to be the give way vessel. They need to get out of the way. They can do two different things in this scenario right here. They can either tack, okay, away from this starboard tack vessel, or what they can do is they can duck them. They can go below this boat to get out of their way, right? When you hear sailboats racing, a lot of times you might hear them say, hey, starboard, starboard tack. They're trying to communicate loudly to the other sailboat that they see that's on port tack. Hey, get out of my way. I'm on starboard. You've got to give way to me. I am the stand-on vessel, okay? Wanted to show you starboard tack and port tack. As you can see from this diagram that we have right here, sailboats obviously need wind in order to fill their sails and to make them move. So the very top, we've got the wind coming straight down the screen. The boat on the very top with the sails that are kind of going back and forth, they're luffing, can't catch any wind. So as soon as this boat turns away from the wind a little bit, maybe at more of a 45-degree angle, then we're able to get the wind to catch in the sail, okay? Again, if the wind is hitting the starboard side of the boat, this vessel is going to be on starboard tack. What I want to show here is that there's a wide range that a vessel can be on sailing that is considered starboard tack, okay? So you can see this boat that's very close to the wind. As it begins to turn down and get farther from the wind, now the wind's coming towards the middle of the boat. And even as it gets farther and it's sailing with the wind in more of a running downwind point of sail, it's still on starboard tack, okay? When we're talking about sailing vessels, starboard tack and port tack is really determined by the side on which the mainsail and boom are located. So sometimes when boats are sailing downwind and the wind is directly behind them, I'm gonna actually draw this one out. When the wind is directly behind them, there are some cases where a sailboat might want to have their mainsail on one side because the wind's right behind them, and then their jib, their front sail, out on the other side. Okay, this boat right here is actually on a starboard tack. Okay, we have the boom and the mainsail, the big mainsail of the boat, on the port side. Okay, so it is always determined port or starboard tack dependent upon the mainsail. Looking a little bit more at this diagram, we can see that there's also a wide range for the port tack vessel. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see this board just here for a second. Okay, so I just want to draw this out one more time because I think we were actually on the other presentation screen. If we have a sailboat and it is sailing and it's got its mainsail out on one side, okay, and it might have its jib out on the other. This is called a wing and wing when they're sailing, when they've got their jib and their main on opposite sides. The mainsail and the boom determine which tack it's on, okay? So the wind is coming behind this boat. This boat has its mainsail out on the port side. So this is actually a starboard tack vessel, even though the jib is out on the starboard side, okay? So it's really dependent on the boom and the mainsail. That's really important to know. We're gonna go back to sharing on our screen here and get into the next part of our rule that we have. All right, now we're gonna start talking about windward and leeward vessels. So the windward boat, the one that is closer to the wind, and the leeward boat is the one that is defined as the one that is farther from the wind. So when both of them have wind on the same side, the vessel that is to windward shall keep out of the way of the vessel that is to leeward of them. There's going to be a lot of times where you might see two boats, all right? And both of these boats right here are on port tack. I'm gonna stop my screen share here one more time. All righty, there we go. So we've got two boats. These are two sailboats. They are both sailing in the same direction. One is on port tack here, and another one down here is also on port tack. But we have one that's the windward vessel. It's closer to the wind. The one that's farther from the wind is called the leeward vessel. In this scenario here, this windward vessel, okay, is the giveaway vessel. They need to stay out of the way and make sure that this leeward vessel has room to maneuver. Partly this rule is in place because this windward boat is blocking a lot of the wind for this leeward vessel, so it makes it harder for them to catch the wind and have maneuverability. Another part of this rule that you need to know is that there really kind of needs to be, and this is especially in regattas, if you're racing and sailing, if there's two boats, there really needs to be an overlap. So that means this part of the rule, windward versus leeward, comes into play when there's an overlap, okay? So if the boat's all the way down back here, yes, this is the windward and leeward vessel, and if there was a risk of collision, this rule would come into play, but it's usually when both are a bit closer to each other and there's an overlap. So you're gonna have the stern of this boat overlapping with the bow of this boat, okay? Or it could be even something like this, right? You just wanna see that those two boats are overlapping. The farther away they are, if there's less of a risk of collision, okay, this rule doesn't really apply as much, but if there's a windward and leeward and there's a risk of collision, the windward vessel needs to give way to the leeward vessel, okay? So it can be confusing because if you look at a boat, right, you've got the windward side of the boat and you also have the leeward side of the boat. So within the actual sailboat itself, we have windward and leeward side. And then we can expand that onto a bigger scale when we have two boats, right, that are kind of sailing together in the same tack. Now this is our windward vessel, and this is considered our leeward vessel. Let's go back over here to our presentation. All right. If you are uncertain what tack a boat might be on, you should assume that boat, if you see a vessel and the wind is on the port side, and you see them and you cannot determine which certainty, if they're on port tack or starboard tack, you need to be the giveaway vessel. So if you don't know, even if you're on starboard or if you're on port, if you're not sure what tack the other boat is on, be the giveaway vessel. Avoid collision at all costs. So the rule says if a vessel with the wind on the port side sees a vessel to windward and cannot determine with certainty whether the other vessel has wind on the port or the starboard side, then she shall be the keep out of the way of the other boat. This will often happen in times when the wind is quite light. So maybe like in this picture that we have here, we cannot really see, especially if the boats are farther away, if some of these boats are on port tack or starboard tack. Another thing to consider is that when you're in areas where there's a lot of structure or trees or buildings around the body of water, or if maybe you're in an anchorage or a harbor or a lake where the wind is coming over top of buildings, it changes the direction that the wind goes. It starts kind of oscillating back and forth, like those fans that move in your room when it's really hot in the summer. The wind will do similar things. So when it's hitting the lake or the body of water, in one area, a boat may be on port tack up here. There may be a boat 100 yards to the south of it that is on port tack as well, or starboard tack, but the wind coming from a completely different angle. So again, this part of the rule says if you're not certain, make sure that you stay out of the way and that you're the giveaway vessel. If we are, let's see here. So again, just wanted to emphasize the windward side of the boat is the side that the wind is hitting. So for the purposes of this rule, the windward side shall be deemed to be the side opposite to that which the mainsail is carried. Or if we're talking about bigger boats like tall ships, in the case of a square-rigged vessel, it's going to be the side opposite to that on which the largest fore and aft sail is carried. All right, this is not Rule 12, but it really goes hand in hand with Rule 12. Keep lookout, okay? Every vessel shall at all times maintain proper lookout. And that means we're keeping lookout visually through sight, and we're also keeping lookout with hearing, what we can hear around us. Are we hearing horns? Are we hearing anybody call us on the VHF radio? You should be doing your full scan procedure, looking all the way around, starting at 12 o'clock, working to 3, 6, right? I like to come back to 12, then go over to 9 o'clock, back down to 6. What's around my boat? I teach people this that come aboard. Hey, if you see something that I don't see, feel free to let me know. Everybody should kind of be keeping an eye out if they can, just in case anything comes up quickly. A lot of times boats are going really fast. Maybe they're not paying attention or they're looking at their GPS. You want to always make sure you're keeping a good lookout. Even if you are the stand-on vessel and you see a boat, you need to give way. If you can avoid a collision, always do that. Rule 8, action to avoid collision. This is another one that kind of goes hand in hand. So any action taken to avoid a collision shall be taken in accordance with the rules of this part. So if you can avoid a collision, definitely do that. Even if we are the stand-on vessel and we have the right of way, if you can get out of the way safely, you need to do that so that there is not an accident on the water. So I really wanted to thank everybody for coming here today and discussing and learning about Rule 12. Please reach out if you have questions. Just going to go back to our board here just for a little bit longer. So I wanted to show you guys one more thing. Okay. So just to review, Rule 12 really was about two different parts of the rule, okay? We have two boats heading in the same direction, but they're on different tacks. This boat over here is on starboard tack because the wind is first hitting the starboard side of the boat. Again, it's determined by the mainsail, okay? Over here, we have another boat. This one is on port tack because the wind is first hitting the port side. Starboard tack is always the vessel that has the right of way. So in the scenario here, port tack vessel can either move and tack out of their way, or they can duck and go beneath them. Really, you want to kind of let this other boat know your intentions sooner than later so that they can make appropriate plans if they need to adjust their course. You might be in a situation where there's something happening like this, okay? So we have a oops, that's the wrong one. We have two port tack vessels here and one starboard tack vessel. So we have a windward vessel and a leeward vessel. And then we also have a starboard tack vessel. This one ultimately needs to get out of the way. It's the windward here. It is also the port. So both of these boats have to, okay, kind of duck and go behind this one. All right. In this case, if it tacks, it's going to have to do so nice and early and allow this one time to go underneath of it. All right. So really the rule, starboard has right of way over port tack. When we're looking at boats here, okay, second part of the rule, windward versus leeward, okay? Windward side is determined upon the side of the boat that the wind first hits. All right, so we have two boats here. They're both on starboard tack, okay? But we have a windward and a leeward starboard tack boat, okay? The windward needs to make sure that it gives this leeward boat enough room so that it can steer and have maneuverability, okay? And this especially applies if there is an overlap, meaning some part of the bow of this boat is overlapping with some part of the boat that is leeward of it. I hope this makes sense. If you're out on your boat, it's always a good idea, if you can, put little stickers on the port side. The port color is red, so you can even color code it. Starboard side of your boat, the right side, that's going to be green. Things that you can use as visual cues to help you and remind you when you're on the water. Wishing everybody a great, successful, safe boating season. We hope to see you out there. Thanks again for stopping by. And each month we're going to be presenting a new rule with different instructors and captains talking. So make sure you check it out. Thank you.